not bad, North Carolina. We brought it, didn't we?
Not bad.
We did okay,
not bad
guys.
At all. Where's the open bar? Is that because you guys are having some fun? It's good to be here. Thank you for doing this, Laura.
Oh my gosh, I'm honored to do it. And as you heard, and I know you know this already, this is my home state. Do you guys remember, JD, you probably remember this, that Hillary Clinton said that North Carolina was going to be her firewall in 2016, and Donald Trump blew right through that firewall, didn't he? It was amazing.
He did.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know if you saw, Laura, because obviously Kamala Harris in the final days of the campaign, she's bringing out the big guns.
Oh.
And a couple of days ago, she enlisted as her chief surrogate on CNN a person who knows how to beat Donald Trump, Hillary Clinton. So when you're relying on Hillary Clinton to tell you how to beat Donald Trump, your campaign's not going too well. And I think that's exactly what's true for Kamala Harris.
Well, we know that. And we're going to prove it 11 days from now for sure. But it only works if everybody here gets out and votes and make sure that they don't go vote alone, right, JD?
That's exactly right. So what I always say, Laura, is don't just vote, vote 10 times. And then, of course, because we're Republicans, people get a little uncomfortable and say, well, we only vote once, right? But here's the legal way to vote 10 times is you get yourself to the polls and then you take 9 of your friends and family with you. So
Amen.
To be clear to the reporters in the back, we don't want the Washington Post headline to be J.D. Vance encourages voter fraud in North Carolina. I'm talking about taking your friends and family to the polls because we know that the corporate media and Kamala Harris and all of her allies, they're never going to tell the truth about Donald J. Trump, but you all can tell the truth about Donald J. Trump. And if we do that, we're going to win North Carolina, we're going to turn the whole country red, and we're going to make Trump the next president.
Love it. Absolutely. All right, so we have some audience members today who I think have a few questions for you. And I don't know that these are going to be as tough as the ones you're used to getting on TV, but I know you're prepared for these. So are you Kelly?
I'm Kelly.
All right, Kelly, have at it.
Hey, Senator Vance. Kelly from Monroe. Just want to thank you for your service, first of all.
Thank you, Kelly. And thanks to all the veterans in the room for their service, because I'm sure there's a lot of them.
Absolutely.
God bless you guys.
I'm also a Master Sergeant here in the Air National Guard out of Charlotte.
Here. Thank you, man.
Amazing. And thank you to our law enforcement in the room as well.
I just got back from my state active duty on Friday, got off my orders, and I've been in Western North Carolina, mostly the Asheville area. And
God bless you, man. That's awesome.
Our mission there, I work with the Army, and I want to say this as an Air Force guy. The Army was amazing to work with. We're brothers and sisters in this, and we did so much good while we were there. And I just want to say, I thank them a lot for what we did. Our mission was to go out and knock on doors, do welfare checks on the elderly, the poor, people in rough situations. We delivered food, water, essentials, and more. We did a lot. My question to you would be, what I've noticed as a 28-year vet, without getting too deep into it, but the little bit of coordination with the FEMA, I can see can get better.
Yep.
As a National Guard, we like to go in there and do our mission, get it done, and get out and help these people as fast as possible. And there's a lot of people that need help. And there's a lot of people willing to help and a lot of supplies there. I think we could do a better job getting those people what they need faster.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah. Well, amen to that, Kelly. And thank you for doing what you're doing. I know that when you guys show up, especially in some of these distressed areas where people feel left behind and forgotten, when they see you there, they feel better, and they know their fellow Americans care about you. So God bless you and everybody that helped out in Western North Carolina. Let me put it simply, man, we could do so much better. And when President Trump is back in the White House, we will do so much better for the people of Western North Carolina. Look, we got to be honest. First of all, what happened with the federal response was pure bureaucratic incompetence. What you needed... Think about this. In 2010, Right after the earthquake in Port-au-Prince, Haiti, the 82nd Airborne was in Haiti 2 days later. The 82nd Airborne was an hour away from Western North Carolina and didn't get there for a week. That is a disgrace. And it's a disgrace from the military leadership, speaking particularly of Kamala Harris, because we know that the members of the 82nd Airborne would have been thrilled to go the day after the hurricane hit. Why didn't Kamala Harris and Joe Biden order them to do so? The fact that they didn't shows that Kamala Harris should be nowhere near the Oval Office of the United States of America. But it's just straightforward incompetence. When you have these different agencies, right? We've got all these 3- and 4-letter agencies. They've got a job to do. And look, let's be honest, some of them on the ground are doing a very good job. But when you have this bureaucrat who's got this territory and this bureaucrat that's got that territory, sometimes what you need to cut through all the red tape and to cut through all the garbage is you need leadership. You need the president and the vice president to show up and say, your job is to save as many lives as possible and then to help people rebuild. What you don't need is a president who was on the beach and a vice president who was raising money in California. You got to have people focused on American citizens and helping them out. And I just want to say one thing about this, Kelly. Obviously, thank God this storm is in the past. Now we've got to help people in Western North Carolina rebuild and try to make as much out of a very tough situation. That's where we are now. But we got to remember that Western North Carolina is part of the Appalachian region of this country. And Appalachia has been left behind and forgotten by our leaders for 40, 50 years. What I promise you is that when Donald J. Trump is the leader of this nation, Appalachia will not be forgotten. Donald Trump will remember who he serves and who he leads, and he's going to fight for the people of Western North Carolina.
Couldn't agree with you more. One of the things I will say that I saw with my own eyes, I got photos and videos from so many of my friends and family, JD, who live in Wilmington, North Carolina,
Yep.
6 hours away from the mountains, who were loading up their cars with as much as they could, supplies, and driving across the state to deliver it. It was so beautiful to see the American spirit come out in the midst of a disaster like that. It really shows you that we really are the greatest country on earth. We have the greatest people.
Amen.
We love each other. We support each other. And with a great leader at the top, we can do anything at all.
That's
Everything's
right.
possible.
That's right. Look, that is well put, Laura. About 10 days after the hurricane hit, we actually were talking with some pilots, just volunteered to fly food and water and medicine. They did it because they love their fellow citizens and they love their country. You're absolutely right. We've got the best people. We've got generosity of spirit in the United States that nobody else in the world can match. We just got to fix the broken leadership of Washington, D.C. That's what we're going to do.
And we will.
That's why we're here.
All right, I think we have Beth with a question. Where is Beth? Oh, there she is. You're right there.
Hi, Senator Vance. My name is Beth, and I'm from right here, Monroe. And like many parents, I'm concerned about immigration. Yesterday, the front page of the New York Post reported that last year, the benefits we are providing illegal immigrants cost us $150 billion. To put that in context, the entire budget for the state of North Carolina last year was $33 billion. So how soon will President Trump close the border?
Thank you. You know, I think that President Trump will close the border. I'm just guessing here, right about January 20th, 2025 is when Donald Trump is going to close the border, Beth. And you know what? One of the things, Beth, the press does and Kamala Harris's campaign does is they try to make us feel like bad people for believing in border security. They say that border security is not compassionate, but then they miss the fact that 320,000 children have effectively gone missing thanks to Kamala Harris's open border. It's not compassionate to those children, and it sure as heck isn't compassionate to the American citizens who are suffering under this terrible border crisis. Now, we talk all the time about fentanyl, and we should, because it's 100,000 American citizens who are dying because of this poison the cartels are bringing into our country. We don't talk as much about the fact that hospital wait times, emergency room wait times, have gone up radically in the United States of America because we've got a lot of illegal aliens who are getting put in front of line of American citizens. We talk about the price of housing, which has gone up 40%. That's what happens when you have 25 million people and you put them in homes that ought by right go to American citizens. We talk about schools. What happens to the education for an American child when you drop hundreds of people into their school district who don't even speak the language? That distracts critical resources from the children of American citizens. We're going to have better education, better health care, lower housing, and we're going to tackle this fentanyl crisis because Donald J. Trump is going to close the border, and we're going to start the very first day. Thank you, Beth.
We built over 500 miles of border wall the first time. You can guarantee yourself Donald Trump and J.D. Vance are going to complete the wall.
That's absolutely right.
Yeah.
That's absolutely right.
I know. All right, Mike is up with the next question. Where's Mike?
Right
Hey,
here.
Mike.
Hey, how you guys? Hi, Senator Vance. My name is Mike, and I own an insurance agency in North Carolina. Like everything under Biden and Harris, auto, home, and business insurance costs have skyrocketed the last 3 years, not to let alone energy and labor costs. What is your plan to help small businesses, and especially small-town America?
Thank you, Mike. It's a very important question. I appreciate you asking it. Look, the first and most important thing that we're going to do to lower prices, and obviously it benefits American consumers, it benefits American workers, and it benefits American business owners. And President Trump, it's the simplest, but it's actually the most important policy proposal to lower prices, and that's drill, baby, drill. He says it all the time because it matters. And I think some don't appreciate that when the energy goes up, everything becomes more expensive, right? Think about it. If the truck driver who's delivering the food to the grocery store is paying 45% more for diesel, then we're all paying more for groceries. If the guy delivering the lumber to the construction site is paying 50% more for gas, then we're all paying more for housing. That's what higher energy costs do, is they make it hard for us to afford a good life. Now, insurance rates. Why are insurance rates so high, especially in automotive insurance? And this goes back to Beth's question, is because of illegal immigration. When you drop millions upon millions of people into your country, a lot of them are driving around. That makes it riskier to drive a car, which means that our insurance rates go up. We saw this, by the way, in Springfield, Ohio, where folks in Springfield are paying skyrocketing rates for car insurance because their communities have been flooded with people who don't have the right to be in the United States of America. So one, Mike, we're going to lower energy costs and lower all the costs that depend on energy. We're also going to secure the border and make America safe again, which is going to lower insurance costs, but it's going to do a lot more beyond that.
You know, on the way here, JD, I noticed at a local gas station, it was $3.10 a gallon. Anybody remember the low when Donald Trump was in the White House? $1.87 a gallon was how much gas cost when Donald Trump was in the White House. There's something that I don't think gets talked enough about, but our strategic petroleum reserve.
That's a very good point. Yeah.
Remember what Joe Biden and Kamala Harris did to that? And can you explain to everybody why that's important, why it's there, and will we refill it so that if we need it, it is available?
Yeah, so Laura, this is such a good question. This is the scandal that the American media never talks about in the run-up to the 2022 midterms, because Americans were rightly very angry about high gas prices. Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, they drained the Strategic Petroleum Reserve. That is the reserve of oil that we have in case, God forbid, we get into a war with a foreign adversary. They drained it to lower the cost of gasoline, to hide from their own bad energy policies. And of course, as soon as they left office, what happened? Gas is now $3.10 a gallon at this gas station down the street. And you think it's not going to get worse? If Kamala Harris gets 4 more years. Gas prices, we're going to be praying for 310 gasoline. It's going to be $5 a gallon because she has declared war on American energy, and she has said herself she wants this country to go completely gasoline-free by 2040, or at least her surrogates have said that. That's going to bankrupt this country. It's going to drive up the cost of energy. But think about this. Kamala Harris drained our strategic reserve of oil so that she could win an election. What else would she do to win an election, and how much more would she sacrifice your interests and our prosperity for her own political gain? We can't reward that kind of politics, which is why I think we ought to send Kamala Harris back to San Francisco, where she belongs, and not to the Oval Office. And Laura, you're a North Carolina girl. I'm an Ohio guy. We know what Kamala Harris wants to do and what Donald Trump wants to do. Donald Trump wants to make America great again. Kamala Harris wants to make America California. With sky-high energy prices, runaway inflation, we don't want that. Let's go the Trump way. Let's make America great again and keep America clean, safe, and secure.
Yeah, don't California my America,
That's
please.
right.
Do not do that. Okay, we've got another question from Al. Al is right over here. Hello, Al.
Good afternoon, Senator. My name is Al Alexander. I'm from Harrisburg, North Carolina. I served in the United States Air Force for many years.
God bless you, Al. Thank you.
My question is about Social Security. And I heard many people around here, not here, but elsewhere, say that Republicans want to end Social Security. What I want to know is, what is the plan to protect Social Security?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Well, Al, again, a very good, a very important question, and thank you for your service. And let me say this, that when Kamala Harris says that we're going to go after Social Security, it's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. Donald Trump was president for 4 years. He already protected Social Security, and he's going to do it again. Now, here's what we're going to do, Al. The most important thing, the biggest unexpected strain on our Social Security reserves is that we have got billions and billions of dollars going to illegal aliens who have no right to be in this country. Social Security ought to go to the people who paid into Social Security, not to people who don't have the right to be here. That's number one. And the second thing, Al, I mean, look, Social Security, if you get the illegal aliens off of Social Security and you stop politicians from raiding the Social Security budget to pay for their ridiculous spending, we actually can very easily get Social Security on a sustainable pathway, but we've got to stop people like Kamala Harris from, one, trying to give it to illegal aliens, and two, raiding Social Security to pay for her radical ideas. We do those two things, we're going to protect Social Security. And Al, that's exactly what we want to do. We want to keep America's promises to our seniors. Donald J. Trump believes that as much as anybody in this country. He's already done it. He's going to do it again. Thank you, Al.
You know, JD, while we're on the subject of lies from the Democrats, I mean, I don't know how much time y'all got tonight. But
Well,
let's quickly just make it very clear for anybody watching, listening, or anybody want to tell your friends the lie of Project 2025. And why is
That's
it
right.
that the Democrats would go out of their way, knowing it is a lie, JD, knowing that Donald Trump has said this has nothing to do with him? Why would they go on and continue to tell this lie?
Well, Laura, you just asked me to enter the mind of Kamala Harris, and that's a
Please
very dark place. I don't. But my guess is she talks about this because she's got nothing else to talk about,
Yep.
and she can't run on a record, right? Kamala Harris can't run on lowering the price of groceries because groceries went up by 25% under her leadership. She can't run on lowering the price of housing because housing is 40% more expensive because of her leadership. And we know she can't run on closing the border because she opened the border. So what she's going to do is lie about Donald J. Trump instead of tell the American people that she screwed up and they shouldn't send her anywhere near the Oval Office. Now, I happen to think that if Kamala really believes what she says, Laura, and she really wants to lower the price of groceries and lower the price of housing and secure the southern border, she is welcome to vote for Donald J. Trump. There's 11 days left, and we'd welcome. But the spirit of bipartisanship is alive in this hangar. We would welcome the support of Kamala Harris. I think it'd be the most honest thing she'd done in public life. But Laura, you know, and Al, your question made me think about this, so Laura and I both have toddlers, right, or close to it. Your kids are a little bit older. I've got a 7, 4, and a 2-year-old. And the thing I'll tell you about toddlers is that when they lie kind of like Kamala Harris does. And here, let me give you an example, okay? So I'm a baker. You may be surprised that me and my 4-year-old.
Do you know I am too?
Yeah.
Yeah, I went to culinary school.
Oh, that's awesome. I didn't know that.
I know. Go ahead. Sorry to
Okay,
interrupt
no.
your story. I love that we know this about each other now.
You know, I'm a baker. So my 4-year-old boy and I were baking an Oreo cake a couple weeks ago. And you've got to like break up the Oreos and put it in the cake. And I go to the bathroom and I come back and half the Oreos are gone. And I say, son, what happened to the Oreos? And he didn't kind of say, oh, the dog ate them or oh, one of my siblings ate them. He said, I didn't eat the Oreos, you did. And this, Al, is Kamala Harris is trying to bankrupt Social Security, but you talk to her about it, she say, oh, no, I'm not trying to do that, you did. Or Kamala Harris, you open the border, she's actually running on the idea that the reason the border is open is not because of her policies. She's been in power the last 4 years. It's because of Donald J. Trump. That kind of lying is so brazen and so dishonest. Only 4-year-olds and only Kamala Harris accuse us of doing the very thing she's already done.
I love it. Or she'll just rip it off. Like no tax on tips. She'll just rip it off if she needs to, right? All right, next question is Joe. Where is Joe? Hello.
Hello. Hey, Senator Vance.
How you doing, man?
Welcome back to North Carolina. My name's Joe. I'm here with my 3 boys, Sam, Jack, and Joey.
Good-looking crew?
Yes. We're from Cornelius, North Carolina. I'm also a U.S. Army veteran, and thank you for your service. But more importantly is I'm a Christian, and we're a Christian family.
Here.
Jesus is Lord. Millions of Christians are expected not to vote in this election. What is your message to Christians, leading up to 11 days to the election?
Yes, sir. Well, again, Joe, thank you for your service and thanks for bringing your family to such an important event. I hope that you guys don't look like you're old enough to vote yet. Is that right? Well, if I was Kamala Harris, I'd say register them anyway, but it's okay. We'll wait. We'll wait, Joe. But I've heard this statistic, Joe, that 30 million church-going Christians aren't even registered to vote in the United States of America. And I really think look, we've got to get people who care about religious liberty out there to vote. I mean, did you all see this? It was really sick, and I don't even understand it, but one of Kamala Harris's chief allies, Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer, is pretending to give Holy Communion, and she's like doing it with a Dorito, with some weird podcast star. Like, the only reason you would do that is to slap Christians in the face and insult them. And the people that are trying to insult your faith, they're sure as heck not going to protect your faith when the time comes to protect it. And that's what I'd say, whatever the issue is, right? I mean, Kamala Harris wants to force Christian hospitals to perform really, like late-term abortions, right? She's actually proposed that. They want to force nuns to close up shop because the nuns won't do their ministry the way that Kamala Harris wants them to. I happen to believe that we're a big enough country where we can respect people's religious right of conscience, let them practice their faith how they want to. Don't tell the federal government that they get to dictate people's faith to them. And Joe, I mean, look, I'm a person of faith. I care very deeply about it. I go to church every Sunday, though sometimes not on the campaign trail because we're out on the campaign trail. But look, what do Christians care about? I mean, in my experience, They care about being able to raise their kids with their values. How about sending your kids to schools or homeschooling them where they get an education instead of an indoctrination, right? So if you want to educate your kids as you see fit, if you'd like to be able to raise your children in the faith of your family, if you'd like to be able to teach your children that the Christian faith is true and the gospel of Jesus Christ is real, as I believe that it is, you ought to have the right to do that in the United States of America. And the final point I'll make about this, Joe, is these guys are going out there aggressively insulting Christians with everything they do. It's not just Gretchen Whitmer. It's the policies they pursue, the way that they talk about Christians. You know, of course, there was the rally where somebody shouted something. It was a simple, I think they said, Jesus is Lord. And Kamala Harris said, you're at the wrong rally. Well, if you think Jesus is Lord, you're at the right rally right now, first of all. But I'll say this too, Joe. Even if you don't share my religious faith, I'm still going to fight for your right to practice your faith as you see fit, because my obligation is to the Constitution. It'd be good if Kamala Harris agreed.
And how about the fact that when Donald Trump got back in the White House, we could finally again say Merry Christmas. That was nice. I heard Kamala doesn't like that very much, but that's okay. You know, I am often reminded time and time again how close we are to World War III, JD.
Oh,
It's a very scary thing, I think, for a lot of people. And I think back to a time when Donald Trump was in the White House, first president in 82 years with no new wars under his leadership.
Amazing.
We had the Abraham Accords, of course, in the Middle East, historic peace agreements that people said would never happen. Talk about, for a minute, if you would, why it's so important in this moment right now to have strong leadership in the White House, our commander-in-chief, the leader of the free world. We see things going on in the Middle East. We see what's happening with Russia and Ukraine. We see China, you know, saber rattling in the South China Sea. We see all of these things feeling rather unstable around the world. Why is it important that we have Donald Trump back there to make sure we stabilize things?
Yeah, such a good question. And I didn't fully appreciate this, Laura, until I got into the United States Senate. And what even some of my Democrat colleagues will admit, of course, when the cameras are off, but they will admit that the bad guys all over the world, they were kind of scared of Donald Trump, right? Yep. and that fear kept a lot of aggression in check, and it kept a lot of wars that otherwise would have started from starting in the first place. And why do you have Russia invading Ukraine during Kamala Harris's watch? And why do you have Iran and Hamas attacking Israel during Kamala Harris's watch? And why do you have China saber rattling during Kamala Harris's watch? It's because who could possibly fear Kamala Harris? No one, right? I don't even say that to make fun of Kamala Harris, a little bit for that reason. But more importantly, think about this. This is a woman who is terrified of softball media interviews, and we think that she's going to sit in a room with Vladimir Putin and Xi Jinping. Look, Laura, I was raised by a grandmother who was a devout Christian, by the way, but also loved the F word. She was a woman of many tensions. But my grandmother was tough. She was smart and she was tough. I can't imagine having somebody like Kamala Harris, who's terrified of her own friendly media, negotiating on behalf of the United States. You think it's bad now, and it is bad now. It's only going to get so much worse because this stuff compounds on itself, right? One bad domino falls, and then another bad domino falls, and then all of a sudden, God forbid, you're in a major world conflict. And the other thing that Donald Trump, I think, you know, the president really appreciated something that many American leaders have forgotten. President Trump appreciated that the most precious resource we have in the United States of America, and I know we've got a lot of folks here today who fit this description, is the people who put on the uniform and are willing to sacrifice their lives for their fellow citizens. That's an amazing thing. But what do you do with precious resources? You use it wisely. You don't ask our military to be the policemen of the world. You ask them to be the defenders of the United States Constitution and the people who swear allegiance to it. And that is important. That peace through strength approach, but also the smart diplomacy, right? Peace through strength, smart diplomacy. That's the record of Donald Trump. And Laura, you remember this, I'm sure, better than I do. But remember when they said, the media and people like Kamala Harris said that we'd have World War III?
Oh.
Again, it's another you stole the cookie, not me. They're on the verge of World War III, and they have the audacity to say that Donald Trump, the president of peace through strength, is anything but. We need to get back to stability in the world, and Donald Trump is the only guy who's going to deliver it.
Absolutely. All right. We have time for one last question. Our lucky last question is coming from John. Hey, John.
Hi, Senator Vance and Chairwoman Trump. I'm John. I'm from Raleigh, North Carolina, and I'm currently in law school. And I'm worried about the opportunities for the future. And under Sleepy Joe and Kamala, inflation has been catastrophic, and the economy is a disaster.
Sure.
So what are the Trump-Vance team going to be able to do to bring down this record-hot inflation and create more economic opportunities for younger Americans?
So I appreciate. So I appreciate the question. I want to answer it. Before I do, could we just give a round of applause to the great RNC co-chair, Laura Trump, for doing such a good job for our party. She really.
Thank you. They're not cheating in this election, I can tell you that much.
That's right. But one of the things, Laura, I think you've done is give people faith in this election. And obviously, nothing's ever going to be perfect. It never was. It never will be. But we are in a much better position in 2024 thanks to the leadership of Laura Trump. So get out there and vote.
Thank you.
Get out there and vote.
Yeah.
Just don't clap. Get out there and vote, because we're winning North Carolina, but we're only going to keep winning it if we work our tails off for the next 11 days. Now, I want to answer your question, man, because, look, in some ways I'm heartbroken at the sentiment behind the question, because the American dream, man, is the story of my life. I was raised by my grandmother. We didn't always have a whole lot of money, but we always had faith in the promise of this country. I genuinely believed, even when times were really tough, that because this was the greatest country in the world, so long as I worked hard and played by the rules, I would be able to achieve my dreams. And to me, that was above running for office or starting a business or writing a book. That was getting married and having a family, and that's the way in which this country has been best to me. Is we've got 3 beautiful little kids. There's sometimes hellions, but we love them anyway. And that's the way in which the country's been so good to me. And what I worry about is, unless we get better leadership, man, the next generation is not going to be able to talk about the future in the way that I was able to talk about the future when I was growing up in Middletown, Ohio. I think there are a couple things that we got to do. So number one is, you've got to make it easier for young Americans to build wealth in this country. We've got way too many Americans, way too many young people. They're mired in credit card debt. Credit card delinquencies have shot through the roof over the last few months. They have no prospect of owning a home. They have no prospect of really building a life. I don't want young Americans to be paupers, to be permanent renters in the society built by their parents and grandparents. I want them to have a life. And that life, I think, starts with owning a stake in this country. So to be very specific, we want to do a few things. Number one, like I said earlier, we're going to drill, baby, drill to lower energy costs, but also to create a lot of good jobs in the energy sector. And also, that'll make it easier to manufacture in the United States of America. The biggest cost for our manufacturers is often energy. If we lower energy costs, we're going to create a Donald Trump golden age of prosperity in the United States of America, and that wealth is going to flow to everybody, young, old, rich, and poor. That golden age of prosperity is fundamentally why Donald Trump is running for president this time around. We're going to do it. We got to. Second thing we got to do is we've got to make it easier for young people to buy a home, right? Housing crisis have increased by 40% under Kamala Harris's leadership, man. I want you to be able to grow up, finish law school, get a good job, buy a home, and raise a family if you so choose. And that dream is getting further and further away for a lot of young American families. When President Trump is back in office, here's what he's going to do. Number one, we're going to lower interest rates so that people can afford to buy homes again. Mortgage interest rates way too high. Number two, because we've got a lot of illegal aliens in this country that are occupying homes that ought to go to young Americans, we're going to deport people, and we're going to get a border back in this country to make sure American homes go to American citizens. And then the third thing that we're going to do, and President Trump, it's one of the biggest and starkest differences between Kamala Harris and Donald Trump, and there's a lot of them. But Kamala Harris actively brags about making it easier to ship American jobs overseas and to raise taxes on working Americans. And think about this. I mean, I've never seen a politician, President Trump and I were talking about this a few weeks ago, I've never seen a politician actively say she wants to raise your taxes. Now, sometimes they do want to raise your taxes, but they lie to you. Kamala Harris is out there saying, we're going to eliminate big tax cuts for the American workers. We're going to raise the taxes of the American people. Donald Trump thinks that's exactly upside down. Here's what we're going to do when President Trump is back in the White House. We're going to cut taxes for American workers and penalize the companies that are shipping American jobs overseas. That's how you create prosperity for the next generation. That's what we're going to do. Thanks, man.
So just to go back to what I said earlier and I sort of mentioned, I said they're not going to cheat this time around. Let me just be very clear about this. We are never going to repeat the election of 2020 ever again, okay? When I took over as co-chair of the RNC alongside another North Carolinian, our chairman, Michael Whatley, from right here in North Carolina.
Good guy.
We said, what do we need to do to make sure that we have free, fair, and transparent elections? And we said, you know what we'll do? We're going to put together the most comprehensive and aggressive election integrity operation this country's ever seen.
Hear, hear.
And in addition, we're going to get a lofty goal together, and we'll just put it out there and see what happens. 100,000 people that we would train as poll watchers, poll workers, and legal experts. And I'm happy to report, as of about a week ago, we have trained 230,000 people in this country.
Wow.
But wait, there's more. We have decided that it's time we send a clear message. We're not going to tiptoe around these things. If you're a person who is going to cheat in an election, we will find you, we'll track you down, and we'll prosecute you to the full extent of the law. And if you are illegally voting in our elections, JD, and you are a person who is not a legal citizen and we find out you're voting, we're going to prosecute you to the full extent of the law. That means you're leaving this country.
That's important.
And I'll just say, the system is working. I get texts and phone calls, you can imagine, all the time since early voting has started. And we are identifying problems as they happen. There were 2,500 ballots we found in Lancaster County just yesterday that were fake ballots. Our team identified them, we got rid of them, and everybody knows what to look out for because we've trained everybody very well.
That's awesome.
They know
Awesome.
not to try it this time around. So we feel very good. But to close this up tonight, JD, I just want to say thank you to you specifically, because I can appreciate probably more than anyone what it's like to get thrust out into this. No one appreciates that more than our family. You have been a champion. You have been a rock star. We are so happy that you are going to be our next Vice President of the United States. And I always like to give everybody just a little something to leave with. If you guys need to get a little hyped up over the next 11 days, do yourself a favor. go look up on YouTube all the videos, JD, of all the folks in the mainstream media on November 8th, 2016, reporting that Donald Trump was winning state after state after state. Donald Trump wins Ohio. Donald Trump wins Florida. Donald Trump wins North Carolina.
Here.
Y'all go back. Take a look at those. Get ready, because that's the kind of heat and energy we're going to be bringing on November 5th. So, JD.
That's exactly right.
Would you close us out and tell the great people here of my home state of North Carolina what we need to do over the next 11 days?
Here's first of all, Laura, thanks so much for doing this, and thanks to all of you for being here. Here's what we need to do over the next 11 days is get out there, vote, get your friends and family to vote, and remember who we're fighting for. I'm going to tell you just a very brief story, if I may, of a woman, a 40-year, she's a retiree, but for 40 years, her and her husband had done steak night on Friday night. And I'm not talking about buying a fancy steak at a steakhouse. I'm talking about going to the grocery store. And that was their ritual, and they did it in good times and bad until last year, because grocery prices got so high that under Kamala Harris and Joe Biden's leadership, they had to give up this family ritual that gave them a lot of meaning. When we're going out there and we're working, and I know all of us are going to work as hard as we can, remember that what we're fighting for is to allow our people to live a good life in the country that all of us love. We've got the best people, the best resources, the most generous human beings anywhere in the world. The only thing that is broken about our country is the failed leadership of Kamala Harris. Let's change that and give the people a president that is fit to lead this country. God bless you all. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.